That's right, folks. Here's another great edition of Fanatics and the Fan. I know it's been a while, but happy 2021. A lot of great things coming up. We're trying to survive what was the 2020 apocalypse, I like to call it. We are still here and still chugging along. A lot of great things coming up. Today's going to be an interesting show. You guys remember we started a series called Meet the Fanatics, and I'm happy to say we added some fanatics in 2020. Despite everything else, we added some new people. We started some new adventures. So in honor of adding new people and new adventures, please welcome to the show our newest fanatic. She is a wonderful person. Please welcome to the show, Luke. Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
I am doing good. I'm doing good.
Welcome to the show. Welcome back. We've missed you. I've been looking forward to this particular Meet the Fanatic because I get to delve deep into the craziness that is you. She is a gamer.
Warned.
She's a streamer. She is. I can't even describe the weirdness that is Luke. So let's get right into it. First of all, how are you managing the current state of affairs that we've been going through for the last almost year and a half
Um, Honestly, I am pretty much a homebody. If I go out into a group, I can have a good time and whatever. But typically, I'm home, and because I homeschool my kids, and so they're home and I'm home, and so our world has not really changed a whole lot as far as our day in and day out. So we're just getting to play video games and hang out. And the only other thing is a couple of the adults spend a little more time over here.
now? You do the homeschooling, you do the twitching, you do so. Here's my first question that I ask almost all of the nerds, and I'm gonna start there, but I know where I'm going, which is weird because I don't always know that. When did you say, all right, yeah, I'm a nerd? Tell me about that experience.
I don't remember not thinking that. I grew up in a house where intelligence equated to value. So if you were not smart, A, you were informed, and B, you were looked down on. My dad was an air traffic controller, and he was very good at his job. But an air traffic controller is not just a job title. He had to be in charge at work. He had to make sure things were going smoothly, and in order to do that, he had to be in control. And so that would kind of bleed into our lives. Um, and so in order to spend quality time with my dad, like it was, we're gonna watch sports or we're gonna watch a trivia show. And that was it. Like I probably watched every episode of Jeopardy when I was a kid because that was his favorite. And so we would sit there, and I swear to God, he got like almost every question right. And it was crazy, just the level of intellect. And then my mother is also she's also very intelligent. She was the first one in her family to go to college. She's an engineer. And so the way that their minds worked was not the same as those around us, if that makes sense. And so then if we would come up to so intelligence was such a key element that we got really into nerd games. Like I've always said I'm a word nerd. I've always said I'm a number nerd. And so for me, before getting into like the fantasy world, I just really loved playing with words and numbers. I actually ended up going to college to be a high school math teacher. So I've just been a nerd for a long time. Fun fact, I am nearsighted in one and farsighted in the other. So one of them makes my eye really small and one makes it really big, and it freaks me out. I always feel like quasi freaking Moto because like one of my eyes is blown up. And I don't know if we're going to touch on Poland syndrome today, that's up to you, but with that experience for me, having things lopsided really bothers me.
I'm not even sure where that came from, and I had no intention on using it, but I'm leaving all of this in. So
No, great, great, great.
I'm not even sure how we got here. So, well, that leads me to an interesting question that I never thought I'd be able to ask someone. Because I recently just started wearing glasses. But I gotta ask, does that condition affect, because you're a gamer, does that condition affect your gaming?
I think we're using the word gamer too loosely here. I like to play games, but I'm not any good at them, glasses or no.
Listen, you like to play games. Let me rewind. And for those of you that are listening, feel free in the comments to disagree with me. But I consider if you play a video game, I know people. Okay, I know people, and I know people that play video games. If you sit down to play a video game, regardless of you say I'm not really a gamer, there's a part of you that secretly wants to desperately win and be the greatest, regardless of the outcome.
Okay, so my gamer tag is loot the body. That's where loot came from. And it came from that because I want to loot everything. I will check the bodies. I will search the room. I'm always like, check all the things. And so that's my gaming style. But I've found that when referencing myself as a gamer, especially in the Twitch community, it can be confusing because I don't play games on Twitch.
I understand. I don't either, but I do play. I'm the guy that plays Fortnite to hang out with his friends.
That's fair.
Now, whenever I play by myself, because with Fortnite and Apex and Titanfall, there are missions or challenges, and I do play some of those challenges because there's nobody on. It's 5 a.m. and you roar, you play some challenges, and you get a number one, and there's nobody to tell, and that's all. Why didn't I have the switch on there?
Right.
So have you had that experience where you're just clowning around on your own, not really doing anything, and something amazing happens, and you look around like, well, damn it, there's nobody here. Why wasn't this on Twitch?
I think my crazy is vast enough that I don't typically go, dang, I wish I would have added that. It's usually the opposite. Like, thank God the camera wasn't on.
Well, now give us an example of, go ahead and embarrass yourself here on YouTube. Tell us something that you've done on gaming that you're like, I'm so glad no one saw me do that.
So I introduced my older brother to Crash Bandicoot. I spent an obscene amount of time trying to clear one of the levels. And it was so funny because he'd never experienced it and he bought Crash 4. And if you guys have seen Crash 4, the levels are like 3 times longer than the levels in the original Crash. But I grew up on Crash and he did not. And so I got it. And I swear to God, we were cussing out the TV so bad because we just couldn't. The bridge ones where you're up in the air. And he was like, well, how do you beat this? I was like, I would hand it to my little brother. So I couldn't pass the level. It was so freaking funny. But yes, I'm glad that wasn't, because my stream already gives me hell. I don't need to encourage them.
I will honestly admit I've spent the same amount of time on games like Sonic, because I'm a PlayStation guy, and we got Sonic for free not that long ago, and there's several levels that just like I still haven't beaten. So I get it. I completely understand. Although I will just for embarrassment, if you've ever played Fortnite, it used to be where you could skydive anytime, and then they turned it off. Well, when they turned it off, they didn't tell anybody. It just wasn't there.
Oh my God.
So there's nothing better than being way high up, jumping off, dying, and then being confused about it. And you continue to try it for 3. Somebody had to tell me. I didn't just discover the day I turned it off. Someone had to actually tell me, oh, hey, they turned that off.
Yeah, that would drive me nuts. There'd be a lot of trial and error for me. Like, why? But why though?
Stop killing yourself.
Right.
Well, there's another fun question. Do you have a great story of how many times you've killed yourself? that you're willing to admit.
Still freaking Crash Bandicoot. So, yeah, that's really the only one that like comes to mind because I don't play a lot of life-based games.
Right.
I like checklist games. So like my time in Porsche is the one I'm really obsessed with right now. And it's just like, go here and do this task and go here and do this task. And I like a gold star. So I will go and do those things. Like I enjoy that.
Well, as a Final Fantasy guy, I will admit I've gone up against players or bosses that I was not ready to, like, all right, I should probably walk around and level up a couple more times. Have you ever not leveled, thought, you know what, I don't need to level up, I'm just gonna go take it on, and you're just too stubborn to not go level up?
Yes. So my older brother and I were playing through Borderlands 3 for the first time. And we're like, it's fine. We found all the things. We don't really need to spend any more time. We're just like burning through it. We got mutilated. Oh my God. It was so bad. And so we had to spend just as much time leveling as we had in the rest of the game up until that point, because we just were not close to being able to accomplish what we needed to. We had a lot of pride, like, we've got this, and then no, pink mist. It was bad.
I've had that, so I've done that on Warcraft, I've done that on, oh my God, on Warcraft so many times. And Final Fantasy. Honestly, that made me stop. Once there's the boss on Final Fantasy, made me stop playing Final. You know what? That's a wash. I'm not gonna play.
I'm done. Yeah.
Although I was really pleased with Red Dead 2 when they came out with that. I was like, you know what? I was shocked how good that game was.
I've gotten to see it played a little bit, but I haven't experienced it yet.
It's just an unexpectedly great game. And if you'd have told me when I started gaming, it was a while ago, but if you'd told me 10 years ago Red Dead Redemption would be a classic, great game, I would have never believed it. Which leads me to my next question. Is there anything out there, is there any games out there that you play or that you like or you think are amazing, that you're like, that should not be working, but it's great?
As far as games that I like really get sucked into, I don't know if you've seen the what's it called? Thronebreaker. Thronebreaker is a card game,
right,
from the Witcher realm,
right.
And I love it, but it's got so many crazy like things. Like it's got the card aspect, it's got the adventure aspect, it's got the make a decision and your decision will affect the rest of the game aspect. And I like that a lot because it's strategy. Like you have like your army that you build up with your cards and whatever, but there are different areas that are puzzles that here are the 6 cards you get. And if you can't survive, too bad. And so you have to figure out the strategy of it. And I like that a lot because I think that gives a chance to just like nerd out, because I like that kind of stuff. I like puzzles and strategy, and that's okay. So when I play D&D, I struggle because I'm a strategist, and I normally play with people who just try to pull the most shenanigans, which is not a bad way to play, but it pisses me off because I always roll a 1 and they always roll a 20. And so I'm like, but this was such a good plan. And they're like, too bad.
I really admit that dice don't love me, never have. I couldn't play Monopoly with my family because dice just don't love me. I don't have that kind of luck. But as a gamer, now that we've gone almost all electronic, I have a little dice emulator that doesn't hate me. Whereas I 3D print dice towers for other people, so they'll roll for me. Although with dice towers, I'm actually pretty good. But with hands in the dice, don't ask me to roll for craps. So now let's. How long have you been an actual role player? Let's separate the gamer, because it's actually it's also gaming, but we'll go with role player. Tabletop gamer.
Oh, tabletop gamer. See, I was a theater kid. So I don't really remember a time where it wasn't completely plausible for whatever we were doing to change into a game where we all had to be a certain person or whatever.
Right.
So, I mean, forever, I think. I actually like physically got involved with a D&D game when I was probably 20. Just because I didn't embrace the level of nerd that made me who I am early in life. And so as I became an adult, I was like, oh my God, I like that stuff too. I like that. I like that. I didn't realize that these were all things that I would enjoy doing because I was like, oh, well, I'm not a nerd. And so that's not, I'm not that kind of nerd.
Okay. So
I was a one number nerd, but I wasn't that kind of nerd.
growing up in Chicago, I had the exact same experience. And so there was a limit of nerds. And so now I was a computer nerd and a math nerd. People knew it, and I tried to hide it. People still knew it. But yet I had a friend who came up to me and said, hey, man, can you program this for me? And it was for a D&D game. Make his life easier on D&D. I'm like, hey, man, I'm not. What are you doing? I'm not that. No. So, but now here we are years later. I'm like, you know what? The amount of fun I could have been having with my friends back then playing D&D. Are you kidding me?
Right.
But I probably wouldn't be where I am now. I probably would get my ass whooped a lot. So tell me about your favorite character that somebody killed off, because DMs do that.
It's too soon.
Clearly, this has happened recently.
Well, no, it's been years, but still, no. So she had a very sordid background. She was actually from a royal line, and that line was thought to be ended. And so she grew up with that knowledge and with the understanding that it was going to be her responsibility to take back the power of ruling. And we spent like real-time days planning this little misadventure off to the side, right?
Right.
And as we are working on it, she is driving, or she has hijacked a chariot from the people that were carrying the person that we were sent to retrieve. And as she's going, as we're going, I rolled a 1 and she hit a tree and the thing exploded. It's like,
so don't ride in the car with you is what you're saying.
Correct. Correct. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I was mourning. It was
so now, do you limit yourself to just D&D, or are there other games that you do, or what's your thing?
I like Catan a lot. But right now I'm like training the tiny horde in nerddom. So we're doing like Upwards, which is a type of Scrabble where you play with the letters and you can build on like on them. Playing a lot of just different charades and drawing games and things that will appeal to them, but also help them grow in their creativity, because that's the stuff I like. And so, I mean, it's kind of vast what games and things that I'm all about, because Magic the Gathering, I'm a huge fan. I used to have, I don't know if it still exists anymore, an ally deck. And I loved it. Oh, the ally deck.
Oh, you one of them nerds.
Yeah. But Magic I've played since 6th grade. So that was my level of nerd. Yeah.
So Tell us about the Twitch stream, because you and I have something really, really in common. I've recently just become really involved with the mental health of all my nerd friends. For those of you that want to know about it, you can find us on Facebook or on Discord under Fellowship of the Nerds, or send a message directly here to Fanatics and the Fan, and we will get you hooked up, and you can get together with all the other nerds and talk about what is causing you the most anxiety. Or you can check out Lou on her channel, which is
twitch.tv/mental health and makeup. And that's the main hub. That's the main base for mental health and makeup. But I'm also on Twitter, and I can give you all my links if you want.
Yes.
But you can find me on Twitter or Instagram and Patreon. And so really starting to expand the platforms that I can feed into.
So now what brought all of this on? Let's talk about that.
It's quite a story. So my younger brother is 4 years younger than me. And when we were kids, we would play video games and hang out and have a blast. We turned into really dark humored adults. And so we would have these conversations or make up these word games or whatever, and we would be laughing until we were crying, just because that's our vibe. That was our groove for forever. We weren't allowed to be on the same team anymore for charades. So, because one of us would do something crazy, the other one's like, oh my God, it's totally this. And the rest of the family's like, what the hell? But he moved to the same state I was in. We hadn't lived in the same state for about 10 years. I hadn't really hung out with him. And so he moved up, and he was staying with us while he got all of his ducks in a row. And we kept joking about starting a podcast. And then he told me about streaming, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I was 29. I was 29, and I had not seen Twitch, didn't know about Twitch. I had never had a Twitter. I had dabbled in Instagram, hated it, and stopped. And so when he's telling me about this, I'm like, I mean, it can be fun. Give me a minute. Let me take a beat and try and come up with a name for us. Because we were gonna be Nuckin' Futz. because we're crazy, and we thought that was hilarious. But we landed on my sister sucks in video games. And I came up with it. I thought it was funny because it was true, but also a lot of people kind of could relate to that, having that sibling who was not understanding like their world. And so we played Kingdom Hearts, and we chose that because A, the newest one was coming out, and B, we played it as kids. And so we were having a great time. We would stream every weekend, and we'd be laughing so hard we were crying, and got to share. Somebody came in and told us that we were sophisticated, like sarcastic sophistication. And we had a really good time with it. And that would have been end of 2018 that we did that. Early 2019, we got a phone call. My dad had been visiting my grandmother, and my grandmother had a stroke. And so I got a phone call, and I was like, is my grandmother okay? And they're like, yeah, everything's fine. My family does not know really how to like address situations, because everything's fine was not accurate. Everything's fine because my grandmother's still alive. My dad, they found a baseball-sized brain tumor. Surprise. Like, he was acting strange, but he was also an alcoholic. So it was hard to tell that he was acting strange, because all of his strange behaviors were slurring and wobbling and repeating himself. And so we're just like, I mean, you live your life, but we're not going to tell you what to do. And so got the phone call from my uncle that my dad fell when he was at the hospital. They found a brain tumor. The type of brain tumor was stage 4. We knew for 30 days. And then he passed. And it was that fast. It was, by the way, your dad, who seemed healthy as can be, besides drinking, he's not going to make it. It's terminal. And so I packed all 7 kids. I bought a van, a 15-passenger van, packed all 7 kids into it. My husband at the time was there, and we drove to Florida. That's where my dad was at. Within 4 weeks, he lost all of his faculties. He could not walk. He could not talk. He could not eat. And so it was a really bittersweet situation. It was strange because him and I were not close. It was taxing because I am the oldest in my family, and so everybody kind of turned to me for what to do. And it was devastating because I never expected to go through my 30s without my dad. So like all of this led to my brother and I just losing our momentum and losing our joy in streaming. But because of the relationships I made in streaming, because of the people that knew what was going on with me and everything, I had a lot of friends that were they were real friends. And when you don't understand the streaming community, when you've never been introduced to it, somebody going, my friends live on the other side of the world and we've never met in person, might not sound legit. But seriously, some of my best friends live on the other side of the world and I've never met them in person. And I was in a really rough place. And this was March of 2019. I struggled for a while. In July, I turned 30. By the end of July, I was suicidal to the point where I had to go into the ER, which if you are suicidal, it is an emergency. It's an emergency and you need to go to the ER. And they will not dismiss you. They will immediately pair you with someone to make sure that you cannot harm yourself. So it is an emergency. So I went in. I spent 2 weeks in the facility. It was a inpatient. I got my diagnosis for bipolar disorder with extra depression and anxiety. So I started medicating. Medication worked for me. I was very lucky. Got it on the first shot. So then I come out of the hospital. It takes weeks for your meds to start working. But I learned a lot of coping techniques through therapy and a lot of different things that brought me joy that I didn't realize I had lost sight of. For example, music. I hadn't listened to music in so long. I didn't even notice that I didn't listen to music until I was in there and we did music therapy. And I was like, oh, I really like this song, or I really like how I'm feeling. And so besides and the other thing for me was writing poetry. I used the pain I was experiencing, and in order to make it stop swirling in my head, I put it on paper. And so when I left the facility, A, I had a book of poems, and B, I went to streaming. I went to the friends that were there for me with Dad that knew that I was struggling. And I continued on My Sister Sucks at Video Games. And my brother got a huge kick out of it because I started playing Twitch Sings. He's like, you could change the channel to just My Sister Sucks at Singing. It's like, you don't need to be rude, okay? But I'm the first one to tell you, I am not good at singing, but singing makes me happy. And I learned to start embracing the things that make me happy. And so was playing on Twitch Sings. October was coming up. And I told my mod, who'd been with me since almost the beginning, I was like, I really kind of want to play around with the idea of costumes for October. I go, I've always wanted to do it. I think it might be fun. And so I think I want to do kind of a different look every day. And he was like, simmer down. Do a few days. You don't have to do all of them. I was like, okay, fine, whatever. Which he was absolutely right. But for my costumes, like I seriously just went to the kids' dress up bin and got stuff to use for the costumes. And since Halloween was coming up and the kids wanted to be the super monsters, which is a cute little Netflix show.
Right.
And there's a bunch of them. And I cheat for Halloween. Halloween, they have to find characters who have real clothes. They have to find characters who have real clothes because then I will do their face and hair, and I didn't have to spend $20 a kid to dress them up. So they were the super monsters that year, and I had all this face paint to do it for them. It didn't cost me very much to get it, but now I had all this extra face paint, and I was like, I kind of want to play with this. So I hadn't done any extreme looks really up until that point. I just I did a little heart in a club, and I was the Mad Hatter because I had this cute little hat, or I wore a lei and did my hair like with flowers, but it wasn't anything like, oh, she painted her face at all. So the first time I did that was the first time I did it paired with a mental health topic was the Scarecrow. And the Scarecrow was paired with false fears. And the inspiration is like a scarecrow is placed in a field so that the crows don't come near it, the food, which is a basic need. And the crow is like, I'm not going to go after that basic need because that's a danger to me. I could get hurt. It's not a danger. It's a perceived danger, but it's not anything that would actually stop that bird from getting what they need. And so I wanted to look into the idea that we might do that to ourselves. We might say, I can't do this certain thing. I can't reach this certain goal because when really we can do it. It might be scary to do it, but a lot of the times it's not that we cannot. And so after that stream, I just knew I had to keep doing it. It brought me so much joy, and I was like, whatever, I'll just keep doing this for October. And then I went through November, and I was like, whatever, I'll just keep doing this till the end of the year. I'm really enjoying it. And so that was the end of 2019. And now here we are in 2021, and I have no intention of stopping.
Well, now that is actually awesome, and it's truly inspiring, and I hope our fans get to learn something from it. We also on our show you have a mental health minute that you do during our show, which is awesome. I can't wait to see the next one of those once we get back into the swing of things. And of course, now everybody's going to see all the flashing of where to find both the Fellowship of the Nerds as well as your Twitch channel, which is awesome. You can also find us on Discord. And while we've covered so much between video games and tabletop and card games, which I'm really going to tease you about from now on, and the Jeopardy nerd, we are so happy to have you as a part of it. If you had to give anybody a final thought, given our current state of affairs with as far as mental health, what would that be?
You are not alone. Your value has nothing to do with your to-do list. You don't have to earn it. It's there. And you should love yourself because you're worth it.
And that note, folks, you have been watching a wonderful Meet the Fanatics edition of Fanatics and the Fan with Court Loot. Hey! You can check us out right here on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'll be back next month with either another Meet the Fanatic or maybe a regular show. We're not really sure. There's so much going on, but you can be sure to check us out either Sundays where we do a dinner and a movie, Or Fridays we do family game night, which Lou cheats at. I see her cheating every time. We play Jackbox TV, or we play.
My word nerd background led me.
She cheats. We play Jackbox, or we play Cards Against Humanity, or some other fun stuff. We've even done some trivia stuff because it's really fun. Buffy trivia turned into an absolute blast. Buffy nerds are some of my favorite nerds on the planet. But be sure to check us out. There's always fun things that happens right here on Fanatics and the Fan.